From Santa Barbara, California, the Timeless Voyager series, where the knowledge is timeless and you are the Voyager. Interviews with leading-edge authors and speakers, psychic phenomena and the unexplained, UFOs, extraterrestrial encounters, government cover-ups, alternative healthcare, new technologies. Fasten your cosmic seatbelts and join me, your host, Bruce Stephen Holmes, the Timeless Voyager. Hello everyone, welcome to Timeless Voyager series. My name is Bruce Stephen Holmes. My guest today is author Peter Guttilla. You know, I first met Peter in late 2000 when a book agent contacted me about a book she thought I'd be interested in. Since I had been publishing books about UFO, ET encounters at that time, I told her to have the author send me a copy of this book. Now, when I received it, I knew that it was perfect for my book publishing company, Timeless Voyager Press, which was named at the time after the radio program Timeless Voyager Radio, which I broadcast to about 200 radio stations. When Peter and I met, I told him that I wanted to publish the book, and he was happy with the terms that we came up with. He had spent years sifting through photographs, movies, and taped interviews with Dorothy Izatt to produce an exceptional glimpse into her life's work. We named the book Contact with Beings of Light, and it was published in 2003. With that being said, I'd like to welcome my guest today, Peter Guttilla.
Nice to be here, Bruce.
All right, good to see you, Peter.
Yeah.
So, people are really excited about this because so many people have either bought the book or have seen the book in so many different ways. There was even a movie done about the information in the book. So today I thought we would do something we've never done before. We've known each other for so long. I thought I need to have you on the program. So I'm glad that you showed up today.
Yeah.
And we both have the book in front of us. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and have you kind of tell me a little bit about the book. I'll show some pictures. I'll try to make this thing work as well as I can. I have the book in front of me. You have your book in front of you. And for those of you who are watching, here's what the book looks like. Contact with Beings of Light, the amazing true story of Dorothy Wilkinson-Izatt. And of course, our illustrious author, Peter Guttilla. Tell us a little bit about that cover, Peter, because people always remark, what is that about?
That's The Lady in White, and it was filmed by Dorothy Izatt several years ago. And it appeared in 1/18 of a frame. And this is a depiction of the photograph, and I thought it was beautiful because it shows the children following the lady in white into heaven, and I like that because that's my philosophy. And so as I got to know Dorothy, I mean, I got more and more of these photographs, and you know, she was one of the most remarkable people I've ever known. No question about it.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw that, I wanted to have that as the cover, and I know that Dorothy actually wasn't happy about the idea that we used it as the cover. I don't know why. She had a personal reason, which...
Well, she was a little bit concerned about the depiction of these photographs because she's been putting up with so many brickbats because of it, you know. And so she was a little concerned about who was going to do it because they don't do it right. They never did. You did. And I liked you for that. I really did. And you touched upon it in ways that meant a lot to me. So I was happy to do the book. the book goes on and on. So I hope people will enjoy reading it. It's very meaningful. It has a lot to do with the cosmos, with the immediate heavens, and it's fascinating, I think.
You know, when we first, and I didn't get a chance to say anything to anyone. When we first met, well, we met over the phone most of the times because the internet was not as sophisticated as it is now. But when I first got that original book that you sent me, which was really beautiful, I mean, it was gorgeous. The thing was about, I think it was like 2 inches thick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it had the color pictures. Now, I wanted to bring up the fact that we're going to be looking at color pictures because if people decide that they want to get the book, I just want to make sure that they understand that, number one, you get the book on Amazon.com. That's why I'm running that thing down there. And I'm not trying to sell anything, but I just want people to know, because this is one of the most asked for books that I ever had in the history of the Timeless Voyager Press. And but I always want people to understand that because of the way printing was done when it first came out, the original book, which people always seem to buy, the paperback, is actually in black and white. It's not in color. Mm-hmm. The only version we have in color is the Kindle. The Kindle, of course, has lots of advantages, but some people don't like the Kindle. So I just want people to know that there are no color pictures right now in a paperback version of the book. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk more about the book. Let's look at some pictures. Where would you like to start?
Boy, I'll tell you, I could start a lot of places. I mean, I was involved in Dorothy's experiences from the beginning. As a matter of fact, I was camping at a place called Bluff Creek in Northern California. And I decided to mount my camera up at the stars and turn on the shutter and record star tracks, right? Star tracks. And when we got home a couple of weeks later, I got the film, and my wife says to me, "But these lights are moving." So I made a copy of that photo. I had Dorothy's address, and I sent it to her. About 2 weeks later, she contacted me and said, "Well, congratulations, they've contacted you." And they've been in contact with me ever since. So I try to tell people, listen, we have to open our eyes, be awake, look forward, look up, and don't be afraid of them. They're not hurting us. You know, they're beings, actual beings that occupy these lights. You know, well, it's that simple. But
a great story.
Yeah, it's going on and on and on. I mean, you know, that's all right. I like them. They're my friends. So I like them. Mm.
Well, I mean, the thing that people have to be taught, I think, because as much as I love Hollywood and the movie industry and television and all that, and now, of course, with all of our social media platforms,
that's right.
The only thing that everybody seems to do is to try to scare people with these insectoid monsters. I don't know.
Stop it. It's unnecessary. They're not going to hurt us. They won't. Don't shoot. Be nice.
Well, we do know. Okay, well, I'll speak for myself. I do know that there are malevolent beings, just like there are on the planet. I mean, but they're not all malevolent. They're not all bad. They're not all going to try to get you.
I know. That's a Catholic view, and I'm sorry to say I disagree with it because it's not true. You know, it's the light beings are really my friends. I like them. So I urge people, don't shoot. Whatever you do, don't shoot. Hide your guns and your rifles and your pistols and everything else and your machetes anything else you have in your pack under your coat. Just don't shoot because
All
they're
right.
very.
Yeah, they're not only are they friendly, but they certainly know a lot more than we do.
Yeah, that's right. Too.
Here's a picture. Here's a picture I would like to start with. So this is Dorothy and Duncan, her husband.
Yes.
This was years ago, a
Yes.
long time ago. This was this before you met them, right? I think.
Right. Yes. Well, Dorothy was married to Duncan for a number of years, and she was born in Hong Kong. And she was approached by a Japanese soldier that threatened her. You know, he was intent on killing her. So she got together with Duncan. They got to a ship, came to Vancouver, and that's where they stayed. And I just loved her. She was one of the sweetest women I know. And I can only say that she's gone now, but I love her. She was a doll. I never met Duncan. He was working for the lighting fixture company. I can't remember the name of it now, but he was working in the electronics business. And, you know, they had a very happy relationship. She was very happy. She was very, you know, good and very good-hearted. She was a sweetheart. And I don't understand why people draw these conclusions when they really don't know. I've been involved with it about 50 years now. I know from where I speak. And I'm speaking to you. Don't shoot.
I think everybody got the point. So here's a picture, one of my favorites. We'll start with this one. Tell people what is this one from the book?
That's the bottom of a UFO, actually, and she has.
So she's looking up. She's looking up at the bottom as it's going away. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's above her head, and she's looking up, and it just hovered right there for a long period of time, and it developed almost a face-like appearance, which was, of course, the reason for the next photograph, which is, you know, one of the classics. And I took photos myself, and I came up with a couple of good ones too.
Let's talk. This is so important, and I apologize for stepping on your words here, but
go ahead.
This is so important. I want to just get it across to everybody. Let's talk a little bit, or maybe a lot, depending on what you want to do, about what kind of a camera was Dorothy using, and what are we looking at here? So let's come back and let's talk a little bit about.
I know she was using a little 8mm camera, one of the cheap ones, as a matter of fact. And
so it was a movie camera.
Yeah, movie camera.
Most people today don't even. Everybody's got a smartphone. You can take beautiful videos with your smartphone.
We had the cameras then that we do now.
Yeah. So it was definitely analog. It was pretty simple stuff. And yet she had, because of her, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but because of her relationship with these beings, they allowed her to see things that normally they are able to block.
That's very true. And I was blown away, you know, when I met Dorothy, which I think was 69 or 70. I was stunned by the appearance of these things. When I walked into her apartment, my feet got hot, and the people with me had hot feet. So we took our shoes off because it was unbearable, you know. And then a little bit later, two of the light beings showed up in Dorothy's room and said, oh, we liked them. Oh, good. Oh, we like you too, you know. Went out the patio, and I photographed the triangular-shaped UFO hovering over her house. And I had a Princeton scientist with me. And interestingly enough, my scientist, he had 2 or 3 PhDs from Princeton. And I brought him there because I wanted him to confirm everything I had known. And he sat there in the living room chair looking up at the ceiling. And he was frozen. He couldn't move. And I was outside, and I watched a UFO hover overhead, 2 of them, as a matter of fact. And this Princeton scientist, he looked at me like I had a wart on my nose. And, he said, I could feel it. I could feel it. But that's it. Now, I don't know what happened. But he did feel a vibration. And, of course, I felt that vibration, too. And it was enormous. I mean, I had a feeling that I was in another universe. But, I tell people, listen, we can traverse the universe. We're not subjected only to this planet. We can travel far.
Tell us a little bit about this particular photograph.
Yeah.
This is one of his famous ones. And this is where, well, tell us, and I won't talk about it.
That's one of Dorothy's photographs. And remember now, this is an 8mm camera, very small frames. And she came up with this photo initially because it had a name on the right that she couldn't understand, but it moved around. That's what happened to me at Bluff Creek when I was there. And I came back and I had those lights all over the place moving. And she was astounded by that. She called me up and we got together after that. But yeah, she photographed this one. They were everywhere. I mean, when I was at her house, I was amazed by the quality of the photos. I mean, they were moving everywhere. Some of them had pictures of images of beings and photographs. And this one had a signature on the end, and I couldn't read it.
Right. This is that famous one where I think she asked. Well, tell everyone what this was about.
Yeah. Well, yeah. She even has a better one that shows a train of souls moving from the earth to heaven, and I found that one kind of interesting too, because they looked as though they were asleep or semi-asleep, being elevated up in a phalanx going up. And I asked her about that, and she said, "Well, those are souls being elevated to heaven." Well, I'm not really a religious person, but I do have a spiritual background, and I knew that, yeah, it's quite real, and it was interesting because these lights just kept moving. And she got photographs of a lot of them. And that's essentially the story of it. That's a signature on the bottom right. I guess one of the light beings signed it or something, I think.
All right. So what I'd like to do now is let's look at this particular one that I have coming up here.
Oh yeah.
This explains something now. Now people can see. We have frame 1 at the top, frame 2, and then frame 3. So there's only 3 frames on 8mm film. So this is like.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead.
1/18 of a second. And that's because the film is very small and it moved through very quickly. And she got these photos while looking at the sky, and the hooked area in the middle photo has got portholes, right? And she photographed some of these portholes and actually saw beings looking out of them. And that was fascinating to me because I had been, my friend Stanton Friedman told me all about these grays and other creatures that have been seen. And I was amazed that she photographed it. As a matter of fact, it awakened the Japanese who hooked onto that one and published it at some point. And I found it very interesting. Although I don't understand how they do what they do, but I can tell you, they do it. And this one in the middle photo is very telling of itself, because it will show you this object in the middle, which is a growing sphere, 4 of them. And they just produced such light that she couldn't avoid seeing them. I mean, they were obvious to her. And they were obvious to me, too, as a matter of fact. When I went to her house, I saw them. They're real, no question about it.
You know, when I met with Dorothy, I don't know when it was, sometime maybe 2005 or something like that. I don't remember. I went up and visited her in Vancouver. I asked her specifically about that particular film example. And what she told me, I thought was kind of interesting. She said the reason that most people never see anything or don't see these things is because if you think about it for a moment, from frame 1 to frame 2 to frame 3, that's a total of 3/18 of a second.
Yeah.
Or the one that appears is 1/18 of a second, which means that that's faster, as you know, than our ability to see.
Yep, that's right. I've had that experience myself, and over my house here, and one of them came up, approached me, hovered over my house, and was gone in less than a second. Boom, like that. I know they travel very fast, so fast, in fact, we can't even see them, but they're there, and they know what we're doing, and they know we're part of the family. And I love them. What can I say? They're my pals.
All right, so that's that one. Now, do you have something from the book that you'd like to talk about? Maybe another particular picture that you like?
I think I do. Hold on here. Let me look at my book and
tell us a little bit about it before I won't be able to get it up for a moment.
That photograph was one of the creatures actually appeared next to a light.
Was that page 41, did you say?
41.
Yep, got it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll bring it up.
It was interesting because, yeah, that's an artist's rendition of the face that was looking at her. That's one of the light beings. And we call them light beings because they manifest in light. They produce light. They are replete with life and light. And we have no other way to explain them other than to say they're beings of light. That's what they are. They show up in light. They manifest light. And I think they're very significant of man's nature, which is the nature of light. I've had an experience with that, so I know.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things that probably bothers people is what these guys look like. Not that it's bad, but I mean, we've been taught to be afraid of things that look a little different from us.
No kidding. Yeah. I don't fear them. I've been in contact with them. I know they're not going to cause us harm in any way. They like us. They're trying to help. And so I know they're friendly. They're here to be part of our earth, and they're trying to help us. So don't shoot.
Tell us a little bit about Elaine. Who was Elaine, and what do we know about her from the?
Well, you know, I liked her because she was the only person, secretary for one of the radio stations, I think, who recognized Dorothy's significance and first wrote about her in a local newspaper. And she introduced many people to Dorothy, and so she was a friend. She's gone now, but she was a lovely lady, and she was very much involved in the contact with light beings. I liked her, you know, although I never met her because I think she passed away very early on. But she was really open-minded, sensitive, aware, and all she could do was quote what Dorothy said. And then she said, listen, all I can say is Dorothy is remarkable. True. Truer words have never been spoken before. Although, you know, recent years, people have sort of attached themselves to Dorothy Izatt. And, you know, many of them are a waste of time, really. But they do that. Every time they hear about something new and unusual, they become involved somehow. And this turns into a fiasco, really. And I'm not too happy with the most of them.
Let's look at this picture of Dorothy with Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Maybe you could tell the listeners and the viewers a little bit about him.
Oh, yeah. He loved her. He thought she was one of the most unique people he's ever met. He became a friend. He saw the light beings himself. He tried to write about them, but he pretty got sidetracked by other topics connected with the UFO phenomenon. But Dorothy just really introduced him to the real substance of the matter. And he brought that forward to the public. And I love that man. I talked with him. As a matter of fact, I met with him. And I liked him. He was a very deliberate, intelligent man. And unfortunately, he's gone now. But he wrote The Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is, a famous book.
What would you like to talk about next?
I think I'd like to talk about page 42 and 43 of my book.
Okay, hold on. All right, let's look at these entities that you were talking about. Which one do you want to talk about? I have this one here.
Yeah, that's the original. And she was looking at an object hovering in the sky. And there were three of them who appeared in the window or the porthole. And they were looking out at her. And she photographed them. And in the original photo, they're a bit clearer than they are here. But I thought that was very interesting. As a matter of fact, the Japanese jumped on it and thought that was the most amazing thing they'd ever seen. I did too. Now, 43 is an artist's rendition of the lead entity at the time of filming. And it was interesting because you can see the detail of it. It looked like a little person. And they were all quite small. They were probably 4 feet tall, basically. And they were sweet. They just loved us, and we loved them. So, yeah, that's a good picture there. That's an artist's rendition of the lead entity based on Dorothy's filming.
Okay, how about something else? You have something else in mind from the book?
Yeah, let me see here. I got them. On 46, if you can see that, that was a photograph she had taken of light beings over the ocean. And an anthropologist told me that was the scene of the ocean front many years ago, before they developed it. And you can see a bit of sand and other things in the middle of this, in the photo. And it's interesting because Dorothy had no idea about any of this. She was born in Hong Kong. She moved to Vancouver. So she didn't have enough mobility to look around,
Now, you may have noticed that the lighting has changed, and probably our clothing. Now, that's because during the first part of this interview, we had a bandwidth issue that caused an interruption of the signal. Now, for those of you watching this, it's an instantaneous splice. Actually, we're recording about 5 weeks after the first part of the program was recorded. So this is the magic of post-production. All right, let's talk a little bit about this second photograph we're going to look at. This is from page 53. You'll recognize this one. Tell us a little bit about this picture.
Well, that's an object that presented itself in solid form, and she would see the light up in front of her, use her little camera to photograph it, and when she got the finished film back, this object appeared. And it was interesting because actually you can't see it here, but there were little portholes around the edge of the craft, and she actually photographed them. and showed me images of beings in there looking at her, just looking out the window at her. And I've never seen that before, ever. Dorothy Izatt was an amazing, amazing human being, I must say. I liked her. I still love her. She's gone now, but I loved her then and I still love her now. But although, in her life, there had been so much conflict, it's hard to separate the good from the bad in a way, because then, of course, there's the copycats that come along that claim they knew Dorothy or they have some contact with Dorothy. And none of it's true. So much of it is just outright lies. I mean, they came after me because they couldn't get head nor tail with me, And they tried everything in the book, calling me this and calling me that. And I said, what are you doing? None of that's true. She's a genuine contactee, plain and simple. Now, what are you going to do with that if you can do anything? And of course, nobody can. So they try to engineer these themes and concepts that have no relationship to Dorothy. And I know because I went up to see her twice, thrice actually, 3 times. And each time I went up to see her, she was just pleasant and loving. And, I couldn't explain it better than to say that there was a light force around her all the time. Now, what that force was is mind-boggling, because some of these little creatures went into her room, her bedroom, looked out the window at us and stared at us for a moment, and then told Dorothy that they liked us. So one thing led to another, and of course, we went on to have quite a relationship over the years. But that's been exclusively my relationship, no one else.
Let's talk about this picture here. This is from.
That's another one. Yeah. Yeah.
I got my book here. Page 55, I guess that is, right? Yes.
Yeah, that's an object in the sky that appeared as a small ball of light, but then when she developed the film, it showed an object that looked like a hat. And there were portholes around that one too, although you can't see them here, but they were there. And I don't know, it's just an amazing phenomenon. And I know her, and I knew what she was trying to do. She didn't jockey any of the photographs. She didn't play any of this modern stuff with fooling around with images and all of that.
Yeah, let's talk about the time. A lot of these pictures were taken in the late 60s. Is that correct?
Right.
And so there was no Photoshop. There was no digital.
I know.
This was a Super 8.
Utterly amazing. I know.
Let's look at this this next one. This is called the Scout, I think.
Oh, gee, that's a beautiful shot. Dorothy received that image and told me that she got a healing vibe from it. And somehow every time it appeared, it created a healing aura of some kind that affected people. And I liked it. And I told her, I said, whoa, that's beautiful, because I've seen objects similar to this myself. So I thought to her, I said to her, my goodness, how did you get this on film? And she says, I have no idea. She said, it was a ball of light in the sky and manifested in this magenta colored object. Beautiful. And I was so stunned by it that I noticed this red light in the middle. And that was an object too. And it was a secondary object that appeared next to the blue one. And it moved around it a little bit like an orbiting satellite. And it was interesting. I have no explanation to tell you that it's all legitimate. She was real. There was no fooling around, no tomfoolery, no fakery, nothing. She was absolutely right, and they're beautiful.
This one is from page 100 of the book. This is let's go ahead and tell people a little bit about this. This is a really interesting one.
Yeah, that's inside the UFO when Dorothy was inside, and she photographed the pilot sitting in the chair piloting the UFO. And as he sat there, she photographed this white light that appeared in front of him. And when she developed the film, there was this being sitting there with 3 fingers, 4 fingers in the front, and doing some kind of manipulation with controls. She didn't understand the controls, but she said that somehow the object would move so fast that it could go all the way across the universe in seconds, literally. And I found that kind of interesting because, of course, that's in conflict to Albert Einstein and just about everybody else who's doing any work in this field. So, but it happened with her over and over again. And this was one of the interior photographs of a UFO. There it is. That's an artist's rendition of what the complete photo shows. And you see that one hand is holding on the controls, the other hand is holding on the buttons that somehow moved it around, the object around. And I find that very interesting. That's the only photograph I've ever seen that show beings inside the UFO. That's one of the very rare ones. And
go ahead.
It's wonderful. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, if you look at this carefully, you can see the hand down on the controls, and the left hand manipulating buttons that are underneath the armrest. And yet somehow they somehow moved the object around. It was amazing to me. Yeah,
let's take a look at this one. This is called railing. This is a picture of a railing, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's a great one too. This was inside the UFO. Dorothy was seated along a window that went along the outer rim of the UFO. And she photographed this image here that shows the railing right next to the window, and she was seated right next to that. And when she developed the film, this is what came up. And this is another genuine photograph of the interior of a UFO. And of course, UFOs have been with us several thousand years. They don't mean any harm. They're not going to harm us. So don't shoot.
Here's, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's another beautiful shot. When you're flying all around, so the bright ball of light gathered together for Dorothy's camera, and they all moved together under the control or auspices of that red light on the left. And she asked them, could you come together? And they did it. They just moved together and glowed so she could photograph this image. You got me. I don't know. Oh, boy. That's another beautiful shot. This one, she was visiting relatives in Australia and went outside and had an interesting experience because the object that appeared at first was disc-shaped. People sitting at the windows, looking out like they were tourists or something, looking through the windows to the people on the ground. And so she photographed this image, which is the bottom of a UFO. And you can see the disc in the middle, the disc on the outer edge, and the small protuberance in the middle. And it glowed around Dorothy for a long time. And she photographed this, and I was astonished because I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, here's one. I think everybody, this is what we were talking about a little while ago.
Oh boy. Yeah. That shows also the interior of the UFO. If you look carefully at that photograph, you can see what appears to be a giant creature, hair-covered creature, standing in the background, and that's Bigfoot, believe it or not. And Dorothy believed that Bigfoot was from outer space. And she said as much to me many times. And this photograph was taken inside the UFO, and you can see the creature there if you look carefully in the background. A pointy head, no neck, hair covered, standing there looking through the plate glass material right in the direction of Dorothy. And beautiful. I mean, this is probably one of the best interspace photographs ever taken, I think.
Yeah, we have okay, this is a little bit better. It's the same place, but now it's outlined.
Yep, that's it. Notice the face. Yeah.
That means this vehicle was pretty big if Bigfoot could fit on it, I guess, huh?
Yeah, she had an experience with Bigfoot, by the way, when she was going up into the mountains near Vancouver, and she was on a bus looking out the window, and the bus sort of came to a slower motion, and there was a creature just standing there in the forest looking up at her, and she photographed it. But this one was taken inside the UFO. I find it incredible, really. Hair-covered Bigfoot.
Yeah, this is another part of that same picture.
Yep, that's it.
Was that Lucy doing that one, or?
Yeah, that's it. You know, it's interesting to me because I knew all the early Bigfooters. I knew John Green, Renee DeHinden, Bob Titmus. I knew them all very early on in the subject, and they all thought they were dealing with some slobbering ape walking around leaving footprints. But no, this creature was from space. It could move in and out of dimensions. My wife had an experience with a Bigfoot like that when she was watching one run off into a field, jump over a fence, and disappear in the sky. And I've talked to many witnesses who've had that experience. Okay, now what's that mean? Well, that means that there's nothing you can do that's going to change it. You can't shoot them. You can't hurt them. You might hurt them, but I suggest don't shoot and be nice. They're not there to hurt you. That's simple.
All right, let's see. We're looking at, I think this is from page 126. This is that magenta orb.
Yep. Oh, boy. Beautiful. Yeah. That was another one of the healing energy orbs that she photographed. And, well, it very well could be. I mean, when I was at Dorothy's house, I was walking around and I had the experience of my feet getting hot for some reason. So I slipped my shoes off and walked around barefoot, still with my feet hot. All the people with me had their feet hot and couldn't keep their shoes on. So I asked Dorothy about that. What do you think that is? She said, well, they're here and they like you. And they're giving you a slight message of what to expect in the future. That's true. Boy, I mean, I got it. Big time.
Here's one from page 138.
Yeah. Oh.
And incidentally, these pictures are from the book that Peter put together about, what, 10 years ago?
Yeah. Contact with Beings of Light. Yeah.
And,
it's a beautiful book. This is an object in the sky, sending a light beam down to the earth. And there's a control object down on the left, which came from the beam of light inside the UFO and floated around it for several minutes, taking surveillance pictures or whatever it was doing. And it also had little guys in that light looking out of the window, which Dorothy has photographs of, by the way. And I was so taken aback by this that she completely befuddled me. I didn't know what to say because I had no explanation. You know, these were not the kind of photographs that you see in the old magazines or that you can see in the old books. They were completely different in many ways. And I said that to her. You know, you've got something here that is far beyond the literature. I mean, can you describe this? You know, and she tried the best she could to tell me about it. And well, I was astonished. As a matter of fact, when I visited Dorothy, I was there with a Princeton scientist. He has a multiple PhD. He had two PhDs, and he sat there in the chair in Dorothy's living room, staring at the ceiling. He didn't come outside because I went outside with all my friends. We stood in the patio, and I watched a triangular object silently glimmer by, and another object silently glimmer by, and Dorothy photographed it all apparently, and that Princeton scientist was still in the chair looking at the ceiling. He forced himself not to see anything. That to me was an interesting comment on science today, because I think these people stop themselves from seeing the truth. That's what I think.
Interesting. Here's a really nice picture of Dorothy taken in 2000. I'm not sure whether you took this picture or it must have been you, because I didn't meet her until 2003. I think that's when I first met her. So this must be from you.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's from my book. Yeah, I loved her. She was a wonderful lady. She really was, and I really liked her granddaughter. Her granddaughter Jamie was very conscious and very aware, and she loved her grandma. She really did. You know, Dorothy's such a sweet person. She couldn't really conflict with anybody. She tried not to, but
let's take a look at this. This is definitely kind of like the where the book took us when we put this book together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Lady in White. Yeah, that's another one.
We have this picture, which is the real picture that Dorothy took.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have this one, which was again an artist's conception of what that picture is.
Right, there it is. Yep. I don't know if that's Dorothy on the outside, but it's the Lady in White. She appears in some of Dorothy's images, and those children behind her are following her into heaven. And apparently, this is a spiritual concept. I'm not trying to proselytize or preach anything, but I think this was some kind of spiritual being guiding the children toward God Almighty. And that's what it seems to me. I mean,
the original picture, she calls it tending to the children, or somebody called it that.
Yeah.
We actually used that, and I've always apologized because for some reason something happened. But when I did the cover of the book for you, for some reason
oh yeah, beautiful. Yeah. She was going through so much conflict every time, you know. So she came to me and asked me to write the book, which I did. And it's been selling ever since. I mean, people are contacting me all the time about it. And what can I say? I tell them, look, they're true, they're real. Now what? Take it from there.
Yeah, I want to remind, or not maybe remind people, but tell people that number one, the book, of course, is available on Amazon. But that's not the reason I'm telling them that. What I want people to understand is that there's a paperback version of this book, but the pictures are black and white. And the only way that they can see those color pictures is to get what's called the Kindle version, which works on every computer and every cell phone and every, what are those things called? Like an iPad or the Android books.
Yeah, I did a copy of it.
But that's the way to actually see those pictures. And of course, we really did a quick overview just looking at the pictures, but there's so much material. When I look at the book, there's a lot of information in here, but it's what, 152 pages. it's a sizable book. So there's a lot of information in there. Peter, what would you like to tell people about your experience with Dorothy and your experience with all of these photographs?
Well, I'll tell you, I tried to talk myself blue in the face with everybody I know about the efficacy, the realness of Dorothy Izatt. She was a lovely, beautiful human being, and I loved her. And I can only tell you that she was real. There was nothing fake, nothing unusual about her. She was just an ordinary person who loved the stars and loved the universe. And she didn't have a real religious background, but she was religious in a way. And she also said that God was watching her and helping her in all these pursuits. And I think she was right. I think it was God Almighty. And I tell you that Dorothy Izatt is worth every second of your time. See the book, read it, mull it around, and when you see something in the sky, photograph it.
All right. Well, Peter, thank you so much for doing this program today. I really appreciate that. And for the rest of you, I'd like to just say this. Thank you for listening to the Timeless Voyager series. I really appreciate your watching and listening to the series on both video and audio players. But one thing you can do for me as the founder and creator of Timeless Voyager is to hit that like button when you are watching or listening to this on YouTube and, of course, on Spotify and all of the audio versions. Also, please subscribe. It really helps to keep me on the air so that I can keep producing content like the program you just watched on a regular basis. Subscribing and liking are free, and those very small actions on your part are greatly appreciated. My name is Bruce Stephen Holmes, and I hope that your own personal voyage through life towards the development of your highest potential is a joyous and successful one.